I am so pleased to be talking to Nihar today. We are going to speak about activity-based education. Nihar is a great consultant and a trainer in the field of education. Nihar, could you please introduce yourself and what do you do for business?
Yeah, so thank you. And so I am an education consultant and trainer for schools. So in India, we have most of the learning happens through textbook, and it's a lot of rote learning and memorizing thing only. And there is simple activities are missing from textbooks, even if they are given in textbook as a reference, but they are not given that much importance. uh, so one of the problem is that teachers and parents and students, they all feel that these kind of activities take up a lot of time or take up a lot of resources. So either they are expensive, by they're expensive as money, and they're expensive by time also. So normally they are not popular, and activities are extremely important for students to do, because they get themselves involved in some particular task, and in that way the learning happens. There's a concrete learning, it's a very proper, they can connect with the topic, with the concept, because they are involved into that. Such kind of thing used to happen before, and I guess now in these competitive exams and all that, these kind of things are not happening that much. So that was I will tell you very, I mean, short, kind of flashback, you can say, that how I got into this. So in my education days, in when I was in 11th and 12th in India, it's 10 plus 2. So grade 1 to 10 is all the subjects, and 11, 12 you decide whether you want to go into science stream, commerce, arts. So I was in science stream in 11, 12. 11, 12 considered to be very, very difficult, because the syllabus is very lengthy, and in that I was actually very frustrated. So I was not happy with my 11th, 12th, and so there was lots of theory. And there's one incident that I remember. My physics teacher, he has to teach 3 dimensions, and for 3 dimensions he just went like, that x, y, and z axis, that is 3 dimensions. So he just went like, this is x, this is y, and z is like this, like this. So basically he did not even use three sticks and made a simple model, right? So not even that much effort, or not even that much, so such kind of educational practices are not common at all. I mean, it's rarely seen in Indian education system, at least. And by now I know that most of the world lack in this kind of thing, but for India it's definitely an issue. It's too much of competition. So the problem, and then I basically decided to go into education field, and later on I came in touch with one or two organizations which do this kind of activity based education, and they have been developing it from last 30 years in India properly, using, because even right now when we go on YouTube and let's say activity based education, we find some activities. There are variety of material they use to make those activity, but maybe those material are not directly available in India, or such material. So every country basically need to have, whatever the day to day material they have available, and from that if students can make it, then it's more feasible to do those kind of things. So there are one or two organizations, institutes in India who has been doing it, and they have developed like 400, 500 plus such activities, which students can easily do, from like, it's basically toys from trash kind of concept. And that actually really shook me, and that's how I got into this field, that how come these things are available. And they were very close to me, like in my own state, there were one or two institutes, and I did not know about it in my entire school life. And the same is true for like almost, let's say, 90% of the students in entire state. Actually there is a one institute in one of the major city, Ahmedabad, which is a kind of capital, biggest city in Gujarat. And all the schools of that city also don't know about that institute. So somehow the awareness was lacking a lot. So that was a shocking point for me, that how come these things are available, very economical, affordable, very impactful, that can really, really transform, students' lives. And how come, it just, the awareness is not there. How come that can be missing? So that is how I kind of ended up into this field, that, I will be working in this field. So I will get to make it as popular as possible. And, you know, yeah, that's that. And I also enjoyed it. So that is how I did that.
Yeah, that's amazing. So let's
Mm.
start with a basic question. How do you define activity-based education?
So activity based I mean, we have, let's say, uh, okay, let's take an example. So there is a very popular activity. This is fairly popular, so I will take that example. There is a, we can take some candles. We can put it on plate. Okay, we can pour some water in the plate and light the candles. And there is a transparent glass. I mean, cup of glass cup, right? Glass material. That glass, once we light the candles, we put that glass on top of that candle. And as soon as we put that glass on top of that candle, the water will get sucked in, right? The candle will extinguish, so the light will go off. And as soon as the light will go off, the water will get sucked in, right? So this activity, if we normally, actually there is a very detailed discussion forum on this activity. So if we do this activity, it seems like that oxygen inside got consumed. So that's why whatever the vacuum was created, and that's why the water got sucked in, right? But in actuality, that is one of the reason. But in actuality, it's also, while the candle is on, uh, it makes the surrounding air lighter. It makes the surrounding air hotter. So it basically become lighter. So when we put the glass on it, the lighter air is being trapped. So once the candle is off, now the lighter, hotter air is becoming colder, so it become condensed. So basically the volume decreases, so pressure also decreases, and that's why the outside water will go inside. So the point is that there are multiple, so we learn about expansion of air, contraction of air because of heat in textbook, right? So that is the theoretical theoretical language. It's a, in one paragraph you can explain those theories. But when we do this experiment, do this kind of activity, then students can have discussion. They can see the things happening in front of them. They can feel that those things, and that way the concepts become more clear, and it's a long lasting impression on what we really want to teach. So that is all basically activity based learning is, that for anything, any topic, connect that with some kind of activity or some kind of real life example, or stories also work a lot.
Mhm.
So that way it students, so what we call it, I mean, we refer it, we take lots of teachers training. So we start with this, that we have a very popular dish called khichdi in our Gujarat. So khichdi is only lentils and rice boiled with some salt and some spices and all that. But we call that that if we serve that khichdi, so basically very plain simple dish, if we keep serving that every day to you, will you feel good? So you can compare that with more popular international version as porridge, right? So porridge is kind of very bland thing, right? So if we keep eating porridge all the time, for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner, then how will you feel? I mean, it will not be a good feeling, right? You will feel bored, and after a while actually you will feel like vomiting, that I can't eat this porridge or this khichdi at all. So we say that these kind of activities and all this, they are like kind of small side dishes, some pickle, some papad, or some some side dish, basically some tasty interesting thing which brings fun to that particular main dish, and which make things interesting. So it's all about making education interesting, so students can stay connected, they can they can still be interested in learning by themselves. We don't need to force them after that.
So my question is, if parents come to you and say, excuse us, Mr. Nihar, you are
Mm.
getting our students play in the school instead of studying. What usually do you say?
Right, that's actually a very good question, because that kind of question does come a lot whenever any school try to do this kind of activity based education. So there are two ways of responding that we do. One, we show our data. One, we show our kind of result that students do learn from that, right? Uh, the from this thing, students are responding in their assessment. So that very official, formal way we can show, and we can convince them, and only through some very simple example also. I mean, so in one of our school, when we started doing it, they said we made it compulsory for parents to attend a workshop before they put their students in the school, before they enroll their students into the school. And in that workshop, we kind of do the similar kind of thing. We ask them questions from grade 5 or 6 to the parents, right? We give them one questionnaire, we ask them to fill it up, which has all the information that in this year what happened, what is the percentage of oxygen in air, and such kind of question, which are very knowledge based question, which are normally in examination. And most of the parents get like around 20% marks in that, right? So most of the parents fail in that. And then we ask them that, what do you think is important in life as a skill? So in that they will answer all kind of thing, and knowledge would be almost last in their answer. Very few people will say that knowledge is very important to become successful in life, right? So that's, and whenever we do any activity, so they will say that cooperation, good communication, patience, properly good listening power, leadership quality. Now leadership quality has many other thing, all these thing also in that, but many of these kind of skills are important. And then we can connect, and these things are, I mean, they are common sense. I mean, we already know that when we do any activities, we develop better communication skill, we have better group work, we develop patience. So many of the skills are developed through activities. That is kind of very common sense thing. It's just that it's not formally in education, so parents do have some resistance, because mostly they are their mentality is marks oriented, or examination oriented. So obviously they have their concerns. So we do that question. We do have such kind of question a lot, but we respond in such way. We give them some example. We show them there is a demo class that they can see, and how students are really involved and they are learning such way.
Yeah. If we go through the benefits of this approach, what are they?
So which I like almost mentioned that they students become very involved in such kind of activities. So it's fun for them. So fun factor, I would say, is actually one of the very major benefit, because whenever we ask students that do you want to go to school, they will say no, right? Very hardly any student will say that, yeah, I love to go to school, right? Because schools are boring. I mean, it's not interesting. I mean, is interesting. Video games, TV, everything is interesting for them, because schools does not provide them, any fun factor. So introducing activities in education is extremely important. Simply one for fun factor also. So at times even I have kind of proposed to schools that don't worry about connecting these with regular topics, just make them do those activity, and whenever relevant topic comes in their study, they will connect these activity with their study by themselves. You don't even need to tell them that these activity connect with this topic, right? I mean, if they are playing, let's say if they are playing, there is a marble game, or we also have top, right? There is a spinners or top, right? We will take top or spinner example. So with spinner or top, it does have centrifugal and centripetal force uh, being connected as topics in science, right? Now, if students are playing with spinners and top, and when there is a centrifugal force and centripetal force example comes up, that study, that topic comes up, without telling them, they will able to connect that yes, this spinner and top works on this principle, right? Because they have played, like let's say 10 years ago, still they will able to connect that spinner and top is connected with this particular scientific topic, or this scientific principle applies in this specific toy. So yeah, so that is one thing that it's a very long lasting memory, that impact that they get. And second thing is, it does allow them to use their hands, their motor skill, so they develop their skills, making skill, which is extremely important, and which is in our formal education, students are losing that a lot. Before, like students needed, I mean kids needed to do a lot of work in house, and because there was a lot of physical work that was involved, that every family member needed to contribute to and all that. I'm talking about years ago, when we did not have that much of city culture and all that. So at that time, so everybody had some kind of skills, they were doing something with their hand. And now I remember one incident when I only had to make a simple spinner, simple paper helicopter using paper strip. I just asked students to make a paper strip out of A4 paper, by not using any scale or scissor. Okay, get a strip of paper just by using your hand. So properly fold it properly, crease it properly, and then tear it properly. Okay, and it should be even proper strip. And this was for grade 6 students, and it took them 20 minutes just to make a neat proper paper strip, right? 20 minutes just to make one strip, one proper strip. They were doing, I mean, the paper strip was going, so I mean, in between it will go somewhere and all that. So even very simple skills students are not having, because they do not have practice. It's not that they can't, I mean, within a day they will able to do it very well. It's just that they don't have practice. So that skills, developing that skill, that practice is also it's very much required for students.
Yeah, sure. What are the challenges facing applying the activity-based education in schools on a wider basis?
Well, one of the major challenges is kind of, I would say that our generation, because already from last, let's say, these around 20, 30 years or something. So all the teachers, our generation itself, we have not learned from this kind of education system or this kind of way. So convincing teachers doing this kind of thing is kind of one of the major challenge. Convincing students, I mean, we tell students, they adapt and they do things very quickly. So that is normally not a problem. And yes, convincing parents also, as you said, that was a very good question, that parents would say that, oh, they are just playing and they are not learning anything. How come, how is it effective, and they are going to lose their marks and things like that. So those are major challenges. I would say money and time is actually not a problem. If normally teachers and administration do feel that money and time will be spent a lot in this kind of thing, and that would be a problem. But since there are a lot of economical options are available, money is actually not a problem. With very simple material, these activities can be done. And time wise, yes, it does consume time initially, but actually if we consider that how quickly they will remember from those activities, ultimately if we see it in a whole scenario, it actually saves time. So management and teachers and even parents and everybody involved, they feel initially that it basically require a lot of time to implement this kind of thing. But in actuality, in practicality, it saves time. It saves a lot of time for teachers and students to teach and learn this kind of thing very quickly. I mean, the normally if we are doing only textbook based, then they need a lot of revision. With this kind of thing, they will cut down on their revision time a lot. They will, once they will do it, they will remember for a long time. That way it saves a lot of time. So challenge is, I would say challenge is mostly convincing. Convincing is a major challenge to all people involved.
Yeah, exactly.
Except students. For students, I mean, they will say that no, we want to do it. It's just convincing everybody else.
Yeah, sure. If you are going to pick your best activity from this repertoire, what would be your choice?
Right. Well, there is one activity. I'm really sorry. I will need to stand up. Will it be fine?
Yeah.
I will bring one straw.
Yeah.
Right. So, okay. So this activity, let me just a minute.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a very simple activity, and it's actually very interesting also. So there are two cups, right? It's a paper cup, one with slits and one without slits. And there is a bendy straw which goes inside, and opening is there. And here the opening is here. And there is this balloon which I can put on top of this, right? And same way I can put this on top of these also, right? Now, what do you think? So this is my favorite activity. What do you think if I blow from this straw and this straw? When I put this balloon on this, I will blow from here, and then I will put balloon on this, and then I will blow from here, right? In which case, let's call this A and this one B, or with slit, without slit, right? In which case the balloon will lift up.
On the right hand.
On the right hand, this one,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Without
this one.
slit.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So let's try. Nothing happening, right?
Yeah. Right.
Right. Just a
minute. Yeah.
Now let's.
That is not magic.
Yeah, it's definitely not magic. I mean, magic is also not magic, right? And now this one, if I keep it this way, now I will blow. This will fall, right? Okay. If I leave it like that, it falls. Interesting, right?
Yeah. Ah,
It doesn't even, I mean, it actually stays stuck. It doesn't even fall, right?
yeah.
So this is now the scientific principle behind this is that when there is a fast moving air, the fast moving air has low pressure.
Mm, okay.
Okay. So when I am blowing air from here, the air that comes out from this end, it is fast moving air. So inside the cup, the pressure is low,
Hmm.
which is compared to outside. Outside is normal pressure. So compared to outside pressure, the pressure is low. So outside air will basically keep this balloon stuck to this cup,
Oh, yeah.
right? So that is what happens here. And what happens here is that because of that low pressure here, the outside air will enter from these slits and all combined. I mean, the outside air will kind of lift this balloon up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And that is connected with a lot of, I mean, all the storms and hurricanes and everything, they all have very high moving air, right? And that's why we see that the houses, roofs and everything, they fly away, they fly up, right? They get toned up because the air that is passing above those houses, they are very high speed air. The air is moving at a high speed, so the pressure above that roof is low, and that's why houses are not being squashed. They are not, pressed down. The houses gets lifted up
Oh, yeah.
when there is a high moving air, right? So
Yeah.
that is, and on this principle, this is called Bernoulli's principle. And Bernoulli basically uh, gave this principle that high moving air has low pressure, and if the speed of air is high, then pressure is low. Speed of air is low, then pressure is high. And on this principle, airplanes work. So airplanes wings are such a way that when that airplane wings cut the air that moves above it is a very high speed, and air that goes below it, it has a low speed. And that's why the pressure is high on bottom, and that's how the entire airplanes get, lift.
Oh, yeah. That's really inspiring. So this is
Exactly.
yeah, this is one reason why you are interested in activity-based learning. What are your other reasons to be an advocate of this method?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is and that one thing that it brings fun, and it does. I mean, obviously, you will remember this activity forever, right? For sure, right? So that is those are the major reasons that it does leave a very lasting impact, and yeah, and it develops a lot of hands-on skill. I mean, just to make these just to stick these straw with this tape and all that for students. So and grade one student can also make this. They may not understand the concept clearly, but they will able to make it, and they will able to play with that, right? So it has, and it can also you can take it to multiple levels. I mean, I can have this same activity or toy made from grade 1 to grade 12 student, and we can talk about these concept in different complexity.
Yeah,
So it's very versatile. You can use it quite effectively, and
sure.
so that is the main thing. And actually it is also very, I would say, in environmental, it's environmentally also very very sound, or very cleaner option, because if we want to do any activities with students, now there are many ready-made toys and all that. So compared to ready-made toys, these kind of things, it does use very very little material, or day-to-day material, or many trays. I mean, we can literally, there are lots of activity using cold drink bottles, or these throwaway single-use plastic bottles. So many of those things can be turned into toys and educational material, which normally, if we want to do it in school, they normally buy those ready-made things. So environmentally also, it's very effective.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, let's take this method into the language education.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, how would grammar and lexis fit into activity-based learning?
So the thing is that this kind of thing, so when we talk about STEM education is science, technology, engineering, maths, right?
Yeah.
Then later on, they also said that obviously when we are making these kind of activities or models, it also require art. So then they termed it into STEAM. So STEAM, right? So technology, engineering, and then A, arts and maths. So STEAM. So activity based education is normally it's an integrated approach. Now I am not from arts, I am not from language background, so and I did not have a lot of collaboration with language teachers and all that, so I will not able to give you the exact answer, exact example that how this can be integrated. But one thing which can easily be integrated is that obviously you can do these kind of simple activities, and then we ask students to write or explain and all that. They will be more interested to do that, and that way language can be incorporated. Or basically teachers will need to come up with those ideas that how to integrate these activity into their own subjects, or in their own subject how which activity we can incorporate. uh, so yes, it's kind of a collaboration that teachers will be doing, and uh, does also, they already do. I just haven't explored a lot in language part yet, so I am not, so I don't have very clear cut answer on
Yeah, it's fine. It's okay.
that.
Usually there is a lot we can teachers and I can do with these steps. Like you can teach certain grammar rules like imperatives, past simple, future, present continuous, and also you
Mm.
like for vocabulary you can depend a lot of this stuff. But my question now is, what does it require to build a teacher who is able to use this stuff effectively in the classroom?
Sorry, what does teacher?
Yeah, what are the requirements to be a good teacher
Mm.
in the light of this method?
Uh, okay. One of the major thing is, yeah, one of the major thing is not to give answers straight away. Like what I did right now, right? Obviously, this is a call, so I kind of gave you the answer straight away.
Yeah.
That this is happening because there is a fast-moving air and low pressure. So if I am doing this, or if we are doing this with students, just show it to them, and then don't give them answer for a week, and then whatever the they will be very, I mean, they will definitely see it as magic, right? They will not able to figure it out. They will use their head, they will use their imagination, they will want to find it out. They will be very anxious to know that thing, and in that sense they will learn a lot by themselves, right? So that is how making it, I mean, that is the whole point of making it interesting. So in right now, the habits that teachers have, or in our education system what we have is that we ask them, and the answer is at the back of your book, right? In last 10 pages you have all the answers. So if it matches, your answer should be, it should be like that, that's it. uh, and if there is a student who is struggling, teachers also seem to give answer very quickly. In like class of 30 student, if 10 student get the right answer, then or if 10 student come up with some answer, then we don't wait for 20 student to complete and give their answer. Then teachers just announce the answer that yes, this is the answer, and that's it. So giving the answer, being that impatience, uh, that so being a facilitator, I would say that is a more appropriate terminology. Being a facilitator instead of just knowledge provider is a major skill or major thing that teacher need to learn, because if we keep giving answers straight away, then it basically doesn't allow students to learn a lot. I mean, they miss out on a lot of learning, lot of thinking and learning. So that
Yeah.
is one major thing. Being patience, facilitator, and all other standard skill. Obviously, good listener is one of the major thing. Being open minded is a major thing. But I would say that if we just, being a facilitator, if we go by the definition of facilitator, and all that skills are, explained in how a teacher need to be a facilitator. So in that, everything is explained.
Wouldn't that be too challenging for the students?
Sorry.
I mean, the students will have to learn from what they do, and then
Hmm. Hmm.
they will not have a very precise, well structured piece of information like the classic way of teaching. This is what you need to learn.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
like there will be a lot of give and take in the middle.
Hmm.
Wouldn't some
Hmm.
people be comfortable with that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's again very good thing, because that does come up a lot. The thing is that it's not, I mean, yes, teacher will give proper answer, but it's kind of afterwards. So that is a compromise that we are doing, right, for our education system, for the exam system that we have, because our exam system does want you to give very specific answer,
Yeah.
which is definitely not the case in real life, right? Real life is very much open ended, which ultimately why we get educated. So if we want more and more, and in recent times, I mean, as we say, this artificial intelligence, AI, and all that, now AI is going to replace all the monotonous and knowledge based work, right? So ultimately, now more than ever, we require students who has to be creative first, innovative first. And these that, you need to have very specific answer. If we have that target all the time, then actually that is what is kind of, suppressing their creativity and innovation. So again, that being said, our system is not obviously catching up with that one. So our system still assess students based on their knowledge and memory skills and all that. So yeah, so that's why it's a compromise that teacher will give proper answer. They will not let it pass for, like, let's say month or something. Possibly in 1 or 2 days, they will give it as a homework or as an activity to figure out, and then students will figure out, and then teacher will give their own answer and things like that. Otherwise, there are some alternate schools where these kind of things are done in a very, very open-ended way, and they supposed to students supposed to just explore completely, make report and, figure out and present themselves and figure out what is right, what is wrong, all that extremely open-ended. But yes, in our standard school, very open-ended thing is not possible. So the only thing is that the answer should not be immediate. It should not be within a that right now I am teaching this, I have to give answer to this question by the end of the session only. There should be a lot of thing which students can take home and think, and then you can give answer in next class, or after 2 3 class or something like that.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's understandable. Now, what would you say to the parents, to the legislators, to be able to convince them to believe in this method?
uh, well, that's pretty much it, that well, this is the creativity, innovation, that all these example that I talked about, that that is how students will have lasting memory and concept clarity. uh, that's all. And there are a lot of basically proper research and papers, and there are a lot of educational experts who has talked about it very, very properly, and very, very, they've articulated in very, Sir Ken Robinson, it's one of the TED speaker. So he has a TED talk, and it has been very popular. And uh, so there are many such, references that we also give, and that is one way of convincing. One another way of convincing, other than giving all this example and demo and some data. Like, so I have done recently. I have done one online course also, and in that also, like, just a very simple this kind of activity, I gave it to students, and students have done it. And so whenever we do this kind of activity in workshops everywhere, it's like almost 100% positive response that we really enjoyed, and things like that. So yeah, the only concerns are these concerns. So in this concern, we give them this appropriate data. And but again, I would say, I get your question that still we also get, we means people like us who are working in that. There are still many school legislator or parents who are not convinced. So till now, I am hoping that it will, the scenario will, improve day by day. That there are many people who are already like-minded, and those people get convinced. So it's only such kind of people. So we kind of find people who already believe in this kind of thing, and then they will get connected. And once they get connected and they show positive result in their school, and by looking at those positive results, now the other people get connected, things like that.
Yeah. So to make it easier for teachers and for students and for others, can this method work in
So
combination? Yeah.
it got
To
a
make
little disconnected.
to make it easier for teachers, for students, for parents, for legislators, can this method work in combination with other methods?
Yeah, so this method can work based on how much you want to implement it. So yes, so whatever method they are using, they kind of can keep using. And it depends on the administrator of the school, that how much time they have to allocate, or how strongly they want to implement this in their school, like once a month or once a week or once in 2 days or something like that. So they can start with that, they can see the effect of that, and then eventually they expand it. But yeah, there are a lot of, so again, it's whatever the effective educational methods and techniques, they all have. Yeah, so yes, so it's definitely customizable thing that uh, based on discussion and based on philosophy of the school and what kind of method they are using, this can be introduced in for a small period of time, and then it can be integrated as schools want, or as they're comfortable, based on their resources, based on the infrastructure they have, and things like that. So yeah, it's very much customizable.
Yeah.
And what I was saying is that actually most of the education philosophy that we see, most of them does connect one way or another way, and they kind of suggest that this kind of education style or way is more appropriate, or they have some way connected with this kind of way of teaching.
Yeah. What else would you like to say?
Oh, well, yeah, there is, I would say that so my all the education has been in India, right? But I did my masters in Australia. There is one thing in Western countries that I really appreciate, or I will say that they have been doing very well, is using technology appropriately. So in India, or I would assume that is the case with most of the developing countries, I am not very sure, but we don't use, let's say, YouTube. So YouTube has an in general internet, but let's just take YouTube, because YouTube is very easy to, for tutorials and everything. We are not using it efficiently at all. If I ask students that what they use YouTube for, mostly it's for funny videos, or songs and video songs and things like that. So there is a lot of material, whatever you are interested in for learning, even this activity based education. So if teachers want to adapt that, it's like a lot of things are available. It just requires some some exploration, and a lot of this kind of thing is possible to do. So yeah, all I want to say is that there is a lot of open source material which is available, It's just that we are actually not using it efficiently. As I said, I mean, I found out about this, like, after my schooling was over. So awareness is not there, and somehow there are not enough people who are making it, who are not using, they are not popularizing this open source. There are a lot of companies who are using the same kind of idea and they are commercializing it. So ultimately, it's expensive. So that's why most of the people think that doing this kind of thing is expensive. But actually, there are a lot of open source material which teachers, students, parents, schools can use and they can find out and do, and it's very much out there.
Yeah, it has been more than great speaking with you, Nihar, today, with your
Thank
great
you.
ideas
Same.
and activity-based education. We really appreciate your great input.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.